Welcome, everyone, to episode 434 of Just Joshing. I'm your host, Joshua Pantalaresco. I write stuff in Podcast 2, and today, Tim Niederriter returns to the show. We do a nice little fun talk on rhythm writing. Tim has a very unique way of how he puts his novels together, and I really like it, and we talk about it. So that's kind of where we're going from here. Beyond that, though, let's just get into it. Let's just rock this world. All right.
This episode of Just Joshing is sponsored by Indie Imprint. Indie Imprint supports creators by creators. Whether you are writing a book or creating a video game, Indie Imprint works with its clients to produce, edit, and present their projects to the world. For more information, check out their website at www.indieimprint.com.
5 more seconds and we'll begin. So Tim, buddy, welcome back.
Good to be back.
Yeah, so I always ask what incriminating things you're up to, but since we just I did your show, I took over your show. I think I gotta let you take over mine. That was fun. Like, I'm impressed. Like, honestly, kudos to you. You've been keeping up your show for a long time yourself, and you've done a really good job with it.
Well, thanks. I mean, what I've after reading is mostly just my excuse to talk to people like you, and I mean, being able to talk to you twice back to back, that's a pretty good deal.
Yeah, it was good. I'm happy you finished that book finally. So why don't you we'll begin by just actually doing something I never do on my podcast. Talk about the books you've just finished.
Okay, so I just finished this book. It was actually back in September. I finished the book. It's called Shadow Prince, and it's the sequel to Demon Scroll. And these are both kind of standalone fantasies, but they're in the same setting. They got some of the same characters, and they're both set in this fantasy world I've had for I created it maybe 10, 15 years ago. So back when I was a teenager, and it features demons and immortals. People, the demons are kind of running the show, but there are immortals who act as their agents in this fantasy world. Yeah, that's most of it. And of course, then people sometimes, when demons are defeated, wizards can take on their shape. They can take the demon's form by studying them, and it gets very deep, very fast. It is epic fantasy that way.
So I gotta ask this. So, because you've had this in your head for over a decade and a half. So, was the reason you didn't get into it younger was you felt you weren't ready for it?
That's a good question. I was in college, actually, when I started it out. When I started thinking about it. Last year. And when I started thinking about it, I was like, I was writing other books. And especially back then, I would build settings just to build. And I started this one out for a role. And just to have fun with it. And I was fooling around with the role playing. And I built a bunch of characters, and then they all kind of fit together into this tapestry. And I was actually publishing them on a forum called the Atomic Think Tank back then.
Okay.
So I put the characters I'd made up on the Green Ronin Atomic Think Tank forum. But anyway, that was for the game, and so people could see them, and then they'd get more about this setting I was making through the characters I put up there. And I thought that was kind of cool, but I guess it's probably what distracted me from going back to that setting for so long. So I was building it forever. I worked on it for pretty heavily through college, so 5 or 6 years, and then I kind of put it on the shelf for a while because that's what I do. But it's always been there, the fact that and I think the reason I didn't get to it sooner is actually it is partially because when you're a teenager and you're working on this, isn't it maybe one of those greater years?
You gotta go over there.
It was maybe one of the greater decisions I made not to write a book like that. Because I didn't know anything about the world, and I still don't really. Compared to what I back then, I know more now.
Oh, every day I wake up, I actually, as I've gotten older and wiser, I just realize I don't really have a clue. I really don't. I recognize the fact that, you know what, all I really know is basically, I think there's a God. Pretty certain there's a God, but that's me. I know I woke up this morning. I know I need to wear pants, and I know that Eventually, I'm going to go back to sleep. That's it. Everything else is kind of just like, you know what? I used to know, and now I realize I really don't know. And and like this time has been like incredibly strange. And I realize that, you know, I don't know. I just don't. And this is like.
So that makes two of us who don't know. That's great. It actually makes all of us who don't know. Probably.
You know what? I honestly see. Here's the thing. I'm comfortable not knowing. I accept the fact that this world is bigger than me, and I know the fact that it will always be bigger than me, no matter how successful I become, or no matter how little or how much. I see and do. In fact, if anything, I will get smaller, not bigger. And I'm okay with that. Like, I've learned an incredible amount about, I have enough wisdom to accept that, and that a lot of things aren't in my control. And I think that's why I might be one of the saner people during this time, and I could be wrong on this, but I haven't really freaked out. Right? I was just one of those things where you're just like, well, we're in this kind of weird little time right now. Okay. We'll see how long this lasts. And every day it's like, is it still going on? Yep. Okay.
Yeah. Still burning strong. Fire, 2020.
Yeah, exactly. So finally, I made peace that I know nothing of the world. And I'm just like, you know, I'm just going to do my thing. I'll do what I'm here to do, and I'll worry about the rest when I have to worry about the rest. And if this process, since my time is up, well, I don't gotta worry about this no more. It's kind of like, you know, cool, yeah. So
yeah, you know, that's one of the reasons I kind of started writing fantasy. Is I didn't want to learn that much. I like to learn. Don't get me wrong, but I mean, I didn't want to learn a bunch about the world and like check facts and stuff. You know.
Yeah.
One of the reasons I got into writing fiction was because how much I disliked Dan Brown books, you know, like the Da Vinci Code and stuff.
Yeah, oh, yeah, oh.
And when I was a kid, I read all of his books at the time. I read them all. And I didn't like any of them. Because I don't know why I kept going back. I honestly don't. But they were all in the half system.
It's funny, because when it comes to that one, I read his research before I read his book.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, right. Like I know the books he based his research off of. I found them in, above all places, a New Age shop. They were there. You could buy them, and you read it, and it's like, this is really cool. So then when I read Dan Brown's book, it's like, I know exactly what this is because I've read all this before. So for me, it was like, you're a good writer, but you have no surprises for me. Click, done. Right?
I mean, honestly, I think it's one of the interesting things about Dan Brown that I can say from hindsight now is having read a bunch of his books, especially the books that led up to the Da Vinci Code in his career, basically, is that he was generally refining, and I've talked to my twin brother about this, and this is where I kind of got the idea, is that he was refining his process, and the kind of book he wrote very simple, but he refined out the action from Angels and Demons. He refined out the techno-thriller stuff from Angels and Demons and I forget the other one, Digital Fortress. I'm not sure. But basically, he's paring down as he just has the religious symbolism, drama thing, and mystery thing.
Well,
and that was the most successful one.
Yeah, well, because it's clear. Well, see, so here's the thing I've learned, like my difference between my first novel and my second novel. It was the fact that, okay, my first novel, I had to get it out there. I did it. But I look at that first novel, it's like, okay, how can I make this better? And I'm like, what I can do, and I've become a little bit more of a plotter as a result. Because now it's not, but not in so much like, I don't necessarily need to have every little inch of what happens. But what I need is what is the story that I'm telling that's really important here, and how best to tell that story. And those are the two questions I ask myself, right? Or if not necessarily the best, how will I have fun telling that story? Right.
No, that makes sense. That makes so much sense. And that's kind of where I try to go that way too. I mean, I'm very much a discoverer when I write a book. I mean, and now I'm dictating books, so I go very quickly, and I just have to discover 3 or 4 chapters. approach it more like, as I go through the next round, I don't need to slow down at any point. There's no reason to do that. Partially because I have a fair amount of experience as a writer. I have written 20 books or so. But most of them are not out. 20 books, 17, I can't remember.
Okay.
I stopped counting a while ago. But my point is, I have a fair amount of experience writing fiction, and that's pretty much the only thing I do write. So it's easy for me to kind of tell the story. Like, get it right. I can trust myself to get it right. That's the weird thing about it. Because I don't really trust myself that much, but I should trust myself more. It's kind of fun. I'm learning.
Oh, well, like, okay, so we were talking about a little bit of this on your show, but I'll bring it up here. You have a lot of experience, right? That experience is an accumulation of practice and work and sacrifice, and, you know, you made your mistakes doing it, right?
Yeah.
Right? So that's valuable, right? You have a sense of who you are and who you aren't as a storyteller. I've done 4 books of poetry, 1 novel. So my second novel, like, and I'm trying to do more novels because, one, novels are more lucrative. I gotta be honest with that. But the other part of it too is it's an important part of storytelling, right? So what I've been teaching myself is how to fill in the gaps. Like, for example, like this book here, I'm trying not to use he said, she asked, he questioned, none of that stuff. Everything I'm doing has an action, right? And so now I'm like, okay, what can I do? So what's the punchline here? Okay, so the punchline is this scene here. I literally wrote a scene about it ended up with a guy eating some person he killed's eye, like what's left of the guy's eye, because it's the only piece left of him. He didn't even know it was on him. So, well, yeah, no, the dude was so Corey, my current book, what I'm writing right now. She used to be an assassin. Think like Black Widow almost, but she's more like she wants to become a good person. Not sure she can become a good person. So this story is about developing what makes a person good, which we were talking about a little bit on my other show. One of the things about her is like a code of honor, but whenever I flash back to her past, you see who she was working with. And as bad as some of the stuff she did was, she wasn't really a monster like some of the other people she met was. Like this guy, like literally, she saw this guy in an elevator. Like the whole scene takes place in an elevator. I'm like, wow. And it's to put her in perspective to everything else in the organization she's at. I wanted to have a clear picture of like, this is who she worked for, right? Or worked with. And it's like, so if you're working around nothing but monsters, you become a little bit of one yourself. You have to survive. So this scene is designed to do a couple different things. To show that Corey's worked for a scary place. Also show she's not the scariest thing in this place, right? He is. The guy in the elevator with her is far scarier than she is. And 3, maybe get a sense that there also when I get to the part of the story when it gets to the part where she breaks, you have plenty of reason to see why. So this is all serving that purpose. So how can I best tell that story? Right? And the eyeball thing just seemed like a fun idea. Guy actually does that kind of job, doesn't even realize the damage he's done. He's still walking away. He didn't even realize he still has that eyeball there. I mean, that's a very, like, what did he do, right?
Yeah, but no kidding. That's extreme.
Yeah.
You know, it's very, because then the violence level there is interesting on its own level, on its own way, like the implied violence anyway.
Oh yeah, I'm a comic book guy. I'm sorry. I mean, it's just like I grew up with the graphic. Like, I'm not gonna say I did all the blood, guts, and gore, but it was just like it. I mean, you come across it in a visual way, right? So it just like it hits you. It's like whoa. So
no apology necessary, you know.
What?
No apology necessary for being a comic book guy.
Yeah. Oh God, no. But that's where my background is. So I'm like, one of the biggest things like in comics is show a scene that will catch you completely by surprise, right? It's like, I mean,
yeah, I can see any kind of shock, just something like that.
Yeah. You see it and you're like, holy crap! Like what the hell? What the hell happened here? And that leaves you with questions too. which also adds to an aura of danger around this guy. I mean, what did he do? Right?
And you know the basic idea, but you don't know everything about it.
Yeah.
That hinting is really powerful, and I love hinting. Honestly, that's one of the most important things to do is,
Yeah.
I mean, I agree with it, is to just open a loop, and then you don't answer a question, or you delay the answer to the question, so you keep reading.
Or answer the question in a way that people don't notice it. That's actually, that's my favorite. So I'm old. I like The Matrix. Alright? You know what my favorite scene looking back on it was? When he met the Oracle, and the Oracle told him, okay, so I open your mouth, this is usually good, so I'm going to open your mouth, and you say, and I say, uh-huh. I said, this is good, but, she goes, but, you know what I'm going to say, I'm not the one. She goes, I'm sorry, kid, you have the gift, but it looks like you're waiting for something. And he goes, what? The next life, maybe, who knows? End of the movie. He dies and comes back, and he's now the one. I was like, oh, you bastards. That was sick. Right, but again, it's, you, like, one of the things I realize, again, and this is one of those things I've gotten older and wiser about, you control the expectations the readers get. That's your real power as a storyteller. So your job is to give them what they want, but give it to them in a way they don't see coming. And you can do that. Huh?
It can't be a problem. If they expect, if they guess what you're going to do, like exactly before you do it, then you're in trouble. That's the story.
Yeah, like big look, so another movie I think that failed at that was Dark Knight Rises. When Alfred went into his like dream about Bruce, like where he like that happy future for Bruce Wayne, I was like, you just gave the ending away, all of it. The only question I had after that scene was which girl he'd end up with. That's it.
Yeah.
So the rest of the
Yeah, there were a lot of problems with that movie too in general, but that's true. They gave him the ending, and they like just heavy-handedness definitely hurt that movie.
Yeah. It was too heavy-handed. Whereas if you look at, say, the last movie when he was talking to Two-Face, if you either die here or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain, that was the ending. But it was done in, again, very quick, very subtle. You built those expectations. Like The Dark Knight, like the second one, is such a brilliant movie. But one of the reasons it's so brilliant is because all the subtext for all the characters are there, right? So they give you what you expect, but you never get it the way you expect it. And that's the trick, right? And that's all in like show and tell. So now when I'm doing this book in particular, I know the ending. I know what happens at the end of this book. And it's almost like it's almost feels like a run-of-the-mill mission for her. She's parallel universe dragon sighting, so how run-of-the-mill can that really be, right? And
high fantasy element, high octane fantasy element, you know.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, it's not a typical. That's the high octane fantasy part of it. So that's part of the story. That's the climax. So now the challenge is: can I make you feel afraid for her? Can I make you wonder if she's going to get out of there? Even if just a moment, I create a little doubt, just a little bit, right? That's my job. If I can do that somewhere in this story, it will be a good story. If I can't, it's nothing. I just wasted my time and your time.
Right. And honestly, I think that's one of the things that makes a story the best for me is when you build up this element and then you kind of, and then the twist is either better or worse than you expect. Is kind of what I'm looking at, as well as being different than what you expect. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well,
that provides the catharsis. The outpouring of emotion when it's like, wow, that was like somehow they made it through it and they're all okay. Is actually a good ending if you really didn't expect them to.
Well, here's the thing, right?
And you weren't promised they were going to.
Well, here's the thing about every movie. Like, we all know it's not real. Like, that's the thing. But we can get engrossed into anything. That's how it is, right? The trick is you can have anything happen in a story. anything happen in the story. It doesn't matter what it is, it's a fair game. But it has to make sense in the contents of the story. If it doesn't, or if you... Everyone can use a Deus Ex Machina once. But you only get it once. Right? You only get that out once. If you use it every time, then you're done. You've killed all the anticipation. You wreck the conflict. You wrecked the joy of that experience, right? We're hallucinating an experience. That's what you're doing. You're making your audience hallucinate an experience. So that's what you're doing. So in that experience, you quietly tell them the rules. As you play, like, this is a game. Think of it like a game. You explain the rules. You go on this journey with the author. This is what you trust. Like, my journey is going to be awesome. And if you do that, right? And if you do that, and you do that well, they'll say, "Wow, this was incredible." And if you don't do it well, it's like, "Well, I was confused and stuff." And you're like, because once you confuse them too, it's like, okay, you're just taking them out of it. You don't want to take people out of that experience. You want them to be as engrossed into it as much as possible. Get them to the point where they can't stop turning the pages.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I think what you said there is actually really telling. You said, they're hallucinating the stories you tell them.
Yep.
And that is where I'm at right now. I'm trying to make my stories not like necessarily more like a psychedelic trip, but I want that experience for myself when I'm writing them, because I discover the story as I go, as it were. I don't plan ahead much. I think to be interested in the story, I think this goes to your beats rules, just to stay uncomfortable, right? Yeah, so as long as I stay uncomfortable, that means I'm experiencing new stuff in my story. That's what it means to me.
Yes.
When I'm writing fiction, I want to experience stuff that's different from the stuff I've done before. And it can be tough to do that because I kind of still want to write series, and I want to write the same kind of books to some degree because that's the kind of books I write. You know what I mean? I have a type of book that I like to write, but they also have to be different from all the others.
They have to say.
That's the challenge to some degree.
Okay. Well, I think maybe would you like a suggestion on your approach? Possibly. I don't know if this will help you.
I'm still trying out the approach.
Okay. So for me, whenever I write a story, it doesn't matter what the story is, I feel like I have to have something that's worth saying. Right? I don't care if the formula is the same. Right? What I care about is, what am I saying? Am I saying the same thing? Right? If I'm saying yeah, that's what I care about, right? So that's it. Like, I don't. If you look, here's the deal. Let's say this Demon Scrolls series takes off to some degree. You will be stuck with that formula to some degree.
Yeah, sure.
Okay? Now, you can tinker with it a little bit. You can mess around with it every once in a while. But you're going to come up with a formula. So really, the formula isn't the issue. The issue you should be asking yourself with every story is, what am I saying? What do I care about here? Because what you don't...
That's a great point. I agree. I actually think that makes so much sense. Because that way I can tell a story that's superficially similar, or at least has the same elements as a previous story. But then I can say something different about the world or about myself or whatever.
Yeah. Sometimes it's like, okay, if you look at Ali Massa Jr.'s Recluse series, okay? Now, there's a certain... After about 6 books, there's a certain monotonous to it. You can't, pick your 6 in that series, and you'll get everything you really need to say about it there, right? But it's a formula. It works. It's very smart. It's very clever. Ali Massa Jr. is a great writer. He's a phenomenal talent. But in that particular series, to me, once you get through 6, he doesn't say anything new. But in those 6 books, they're amazing. He talks about different aspects of the world. He talks about different aspects, but he also introduces different characters. Because every character that goes through the world comes out with a different experience too, right? It's much like putting salt in water, right? Put salt in water, it comes out. You take it out somehow, some way. It's a different thing than it was when what went through that water. So, and everybody does that with life. We experience life differently. So you can have different characters in your different worlds, and you can even have some of the same obstacles in their way. Because that's true of life, right? We're all going to die one day, not to be like morbidly depressing or anything like that, but I mean, that's an obstacle we all face, right? What makes it interesting is, how do we face it?
Yeah, and that's, I guess that it really does boil down on what the problem I was having was trying to do different stuff for a book is challenging when you're trying to write a series first. And you're going to have to write exactly the same genre every time, kind of stick to the rules you created in the first book. But telling a different story, saying something different about whatever you want to talk about at that time, is actually pretty doable in a series like this, especially a big, books like I'm writing.
I mean, and that's where, like I said, this is the big difference between me doing like the first book and like this first novel I did and this novel now is, again, I plot a little bit more. I don't plot very much. I just basically put 3 sentences per chapter. Like, what's the story I'm telling in these chapters, right? What's the image I want to convey in these chapters, and what do I want you to feel?
That's a good way to do an outline, honestly.
It's very quick. I'm answering questions, basically, right? And, my first draft, I'm not going to worry about the third question very much, right? Second question, probably the first 2 drafts are going to be refining the first 2 questions, right?
Yeah.
Right? But when I get to the third draft, it's like, okay, now I care about question 3. Is this making me feel what I want you to feel? Right? And if the answer is yes, or, okay, if it doesn't make me feel that, is it better?
Right. Is it better than when we originally planned?
Yeah. Does that make sense?
You always be open for things being different or better than when you originally planned, as long as it works.
Exactly.
As long as it works for the story, I think that makes perfect sense. It's funny because actually, since I started dictating fiction, my approach has been very much to just get it down.
Yeah.
I don't worry about anything, even the minimal level of outline. You said it's I basically don't worry about that stuff until I'm editing. Then I fix everything.
What?
That means editing has become basically like you're writing for
yeah.
And that is an interesting change because I used to spend very little time editing.
Yeah, I think there's a balance there, right? Like if you know, like what you want to avoid as a writer, and this is me, like from a novel, you don't want a soggy middle. And I think that's what plotting is better than pantsing, is you avoid those soggy middles, right?
That's true. Yeah, you can. Because otherwise you can get these middles just to drag on.
Yeah, you don't want that. You want if you get to the middle, you want the middle to be as fun as the beginning and end of the story, right? You want to find a way to make that engaging. But what you really want, that's where plottings are good. But where just pantsing your way through things is amazing, is when you find those organic connections. Plotters sometimes get stuck. Well, it has to be this way. It's like, no, it doesn't. It can be this way too. There's more than one way to dance. There's more than one way to skin a cat. Which is why my outlines are very skeletal, right? They're not really about the fine details, because I want to be surprised. If I can be surprised and I think it's better, I smile, right? Right? I don't want to lose that. I don't want to lose. Not in a million years. But
Just stay loose. You gotta keep it fluid. And that's how you can surprise yourself. And that's what I'm looking to do. I'm always trying to surprise myself.
yeah, and you know what? That's awesome, right? Because if you're surprised, you're going to surprise the reader too, right? Right? It's like, holy crap, this is amazing. Or sometimes this will work too. A reader will get before you do, and that's also cool. But it's for a different reason. It's like, wow, you saw it before I did. Okay, that's cool. At least I knew what I was doing. Right? But
absolutely. I actually got that when I was on the writer's block with Jim Christina. I'm trying to remember. I think I got both their names right. I'm just awful. But they wrote Red Demons last year, and I didn't realize that when I put in that book until they were telling me about it. What they got out of it, and that was very interesting. Like, oh, this book feels like it's got a lot of, it's got so many kind of power lines, or it feels like it's trying to teach you something. And I didn't do that on purpose. It's that kind of thing, I was very surprised by it.
so you might actually know something about the world, Mr. Tim.
Maybe I've learned a few things, yeah.
Maybe. Maybe. Well, when you figure it out, let me know, okay? Because I need help.
Yeah, I just, one thing I actually think I figured out is how to kind of type things or dictate things that sound kind of wise, at the very least. I figured that out.
Oh, hey.
Or maybe I actually don't know how to do it, I just do it. So maybe that's the other thing.
So anyway, are you happy with your process?
Well, he's not yet. Not all that happy right now. It's interesting because I spend less time on writing than I should, and that's the problem that I've always come into lately. Pretty happy with the process. I'm happy with, dictate for, a 10-hour, 20-hour book, and then just edit everything. And that takes another 20 or 40 hours. And that's actually okay with me.
Okay.
It's a lot of time editing, but it works. And I think the main problem I have with the problem with Demon Scroll is that I didn't listen to it out loud. Listening to the book out loud is huge for my process now. And I did it for all the previous books because I was in a hurry to release Demon Scroll. And this is the problem with pre-givers folks. I didn't listen to that one out loud. I'm still listening to it out loud to make sure I do it clean up. Because it's just a type of shouldn't be there. And I can find them all easily if I listen to them. So I'm doing that right now. And that's the beauty. One of the biggest beauty spots is I can fix the book and I can pre-release it easily without having to change anything but the actual page. Yeah, but I did that for that's why I'd say people like now, I'd say start with the second book because they do kind of stand alone, and the second book, Shadow Prince, I edited much more thoroughly the first book because I knew how to do it. I figured it out out loud, and I'm like, okay, we're doing this right.
Well,
and so that's where I really kind of refined the process to be like, okay, we definitely need that out loud. Listen to the book, on the computer, read the book, or read the book out loud yourself. I think that's a very important part of the process. It's just a matter of doing that as well as using the really heavy rereading. Because when I dictate, my prose is garbage. And when it first comes out, that rough draft is the roughest rough draft that I can imagine. And so rereading it is actually the longest part of the process. And that's where maybe we can use all the changes to make it actually read like a book and not just like a cookie. This was dictated clearly. This was like translated from the rest of my brain onto the page. And I didn't even use my fingers to move it,
okay. So it sounds like I tried something similar with my young adult novel. Because it's one of the first books I ever wrote that I actually know the story beginning to end. It's incredible. I didn't have to write a single thing down. I just know. This leads to this, leads to this. That's it. Act 1, Act 2, Act 3. It's like, wow, this is so clear. Right? Right? I never get a book like that. Like, I usually have, like, blind spots. Right? Cloud Diver 2. I know one of the villains is a killer cupcake. Right? Yeah, it's my homage to Pac-Man because I love Pac-Man, right? So it's like Killer Cupcake, Pac-Man. Yes, there is a scene. There's a scene he's literally trying to run away from a cupcake in a giant maze. The only difference between that and Pac-Man is the cupcake eats through the maze. But that's little details, right? But yeah, it's a cheating cupcake. It is a bit of a cheating cupcake. But so the whole theme about that is during the tweets and stuff like that is like, this is the thing, I use a social media feed to actually do some bot stuff. So every time the cupcake strikes in the story, all of it is off screen. It's amazing. Cupcake devours such and such. It just grows to this giant monster that everybody has to deal with at the end of the book, which is just like great. But prior to that, it's like, okay, I know this book is actually about. This is just a side thing. The main thing is, okay, it's a rescue mission. So I know that this is going to lead to this, but I don't have no clue about the middle. So, but my young adult Race Inside the Star novel is like, I know the whole story, in and out. It's like, wow, okay. So I don't work. So I wrote the first draft, and I threw every idea. I mean, all of them, every idea, good, bad, and different. It is the biggest mess I've ever made writing. Biggest mess, right? But I thought, you know what? It's better it's out than in, because I did everything but the final, like, Act 3, which was the race itself. The race itself, I'm actually going to do a little bit, like, I'm actually doing a D&D campaign for it. Right, because it's about a ship surviving the inside the heart of a star. And so I statted out the ship, which parts of the ship go away, right? Because I realized, like, for her, my main character, the story here is, okay, this is the perfect opportunity to die. And when you get to that moment, you find out who you are. And I know who she is. So what I want to make this feel unpredictable is the things that go wrong. The things she has to do to keep going and surviving in this crazy one-of-a-kind race that actually reignites a star, which is the goal of the race. And it's one of the craziest things I've ever done. So I'm planning the D&D campaign for that, just because I like the chaos of of how the ship disintegrates slowly but surely, right? And I also have pirates in there just for shits, because I'm crazy. But, that's me. Right? But the thing about that, right, is the whole thing's a mess. But I know this mess, where it goes, how it ends, all that stuff. And it was like, I have never done this before. But there is something very cathartic about just letting it all go out there. Just let it all hang out. The good, the bad, the ugly. It's like, oh my God, there's a bad idea. But every once in a while, your bad idea is like, you know what? I can make that work. And I bet you that happens with you too.
Oh, it definitely does. And the thing I would say the most about this is when I'm dictating, I often don't really even have an idea for the scene. And so I will just kind of go, and I sometimes this paralyzes me, but if I'm really doing it, if I'm really into it, I'll just go and I'll do the next scene. And the scene will just kind of, and the next scene after that. So I usually go several scenes in a row when I'm dictating, because I take scenes of 10 to 20 minutes, so I go for an hour or two.
Okay.
And then I take a break and describe everything. But the thing is, when I'm dictating, I just say stuff. And when I'm editing, I decide which of that stuff stays in the book, and usually most of it stays, because most of it fits together better than I ever expected when I've done that. Weirdly. I mean, sometimes there's big tweaks, sometimes there's like, oh, that sentence doesn't work. Oh, and actually sentence stuff. Sentences just get thrown out with you don't see anything. But the story element stays. Those are strong.
It almost sounds like you have a stand-up comedy routine. And hear me out here on this, okay? Hear me out on this. Comedians get into a rhythm. You can see it when they get on stage. The first couple jokes are kind of tentative. They're kind of just like, they're getting into it. They're getting to their shtick and their spiel. But when they're feeling it, right, they just go, right? They're telling their stories. They're letting it fly. They're letting it do its thing. And they're completely immersed in their stories. And you're still laughing. Not all their jokes are good. Like any good story, it's like it's a roller coaster. Some jokes are awesome. Some jokes aren't as good. Some are even bad. But if you get everybody going along for the ride long enough, it doesn't matter. It's just one fun trip, right? I bet you when you dictate, what happens for you, you're probably tentative for like 5 minutes. But then you just stop thinking about it and you just go. And you go, and you go. And then finally an hour later goes by and you probably don't even notice.
That's closer to the truth you might expect.
Yeah.
Even you suggest, honestly. I think the comedian analogy is a really good one. And I just need to be patient for those first 5 minutes, really. It's kind of the thing. It's first however long it takes to get into it. it's really not very effective. Because just,
Well, you don't get your rhythm, right?
exactly. Yeah.
Right. For you, it's about. So for you, then the challenge is you recognize, you know what you feel like when you're in rhythm, right?
Yeah.
So the challenge for you then is just to get yourself into that headspace as fast as you can. Right? If you need to do, so you can have a crappy scene, it's okay. Like what you got. Here's maybe what you got to do. Okay. Now that we've had this talk, it's like, okay, the first scene is to find my rhythm for the day. I have my rhythm. Or even if it doesn't work out, okay, that's fine. You don't need that first scene you did. But basically, you're just breaking your ice. It's called maybe your icebreaker scene, right? You break your ice. Okay, broke ice. It felt good or it sucked. Either way, if it felt good, I keep going immediately. If it sucks, I'll take 5 minutes. Sit there, breathe, try again. If it works the second time, because I bet you what happens is if you do it like that, the second time, even if you don't still find your rhythm, it will be easier, and you'll probably at least find something usable with it. Does that make sense?
That does make sense, and I think that's a great analogy, ice breaking. And because again, it's just like you don't know how much it's gonna hurt until you rip the Band-Aid off.
Yeah, exactly.
It's all that stuff. It's all those analogies and that stuff about you can't be sure. And also, it's never comfortable to start a scene. It's kind of tough when you're dictating. Because okay, I guess I'm going to talk this story now.
Yeah.
I did most of my books by typing, and that's why I think I still run into some trouble thinking. But I was running the same trouble typing, so I think really it is. It's just getting used to it, get in the groove.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's all about rhythm, man. Like most of us, it's about finding our rhythms. It's not like the really prolific people get to a certain point where they can just find it immediately, right? They can but it's almost like I'm almost equating this to athletics. If you ever watch a basketball player play, right? They take a warm up. Like if you notice, like players warm up, like whether it's music or sports, right? Playing an instrument. They're screwing around for about 5-10 minutes, just doing whatever, right? If you're a basketball player, you're taking shots, or you're dribbling, or you're screwing around. If you're a musician, you're playing this song, but you're having fun with it. You're not trying your best to play that pitch perfect, whatever. No, what you're doing is you're getting yourself comfortable with that instrument. You're getting yourself comfortable with the ball. You're getting yourself comfortable with your tools, right? Getting yourself back into that headspace of, okay, I can use that stuff,
Yeah.
right?
It's almost like you're having to pump. You're deciding,
Yep.
what you're just like, okay, I've got to go. I got to get these tools out of it.
Yeah, and I got to warm them up. I got to sharpen them up. I got to sharpen me up, right? So I think, yeah, okay. So Mr. Tim, I guess my suggestion for you is, treat this like you're in an athletic competition or a musical recital, or you're about to perform on stage as a comedian, something like that. And that way, whatever your first scene is, that first 10 minutes, that first awkward 10 minutes is, it's your warm-up scene. It doesn't count. No matter what, it doesn't count. It can be that awkward. It can be awkward and as uncomfortable as you want. And if you don't feel it, like if you just don't feel it, you take 5 to 10 minutes, you do something else for 5 to 10 minutes, and try again.
Great idea. And the key is to try again. Try it.
Yeah.
If you don't get in the groove, you just got to keep trying to get in the groove. Of course,
Yeah.
I say you, but I mean me. I think it goes for a lot of writers too, and a lot of other people out there.
Oh, it's everything. Everything is rhythm, man. There is almost like, I almost would like to say, like, there's music in everything we do, and there's a language to everything we do. And when we're in that moment or in that zone, whatever that zone is, like, we stop thinking about it. We just do it, right? And so when you get to the, like, it doesn't have to be great, right? It doesn't have to be great. It has to just be like, it's about getting it down. Like, you got, like, once you're in your groove, you get it down. You find, like you said, probably about 70% of it works, right? When you're done, on average, about 70. So that means, and that's about right. Like, you don't get, like, no one bats a perfect, like, hey, it's not about being perfect. It's about just, it's about taking your swings at the bat. So then you take your swing. You have 70% of the balls were great. 30% of the balls sucked. Probably 10% of those balls are useful, and the rest you discard. And you do it like that. Well, eventually happen is, first off, you'll be able to perform on cue. Like just think about this. You might actually solve your public speaking issue as well, because it's the same thing. That 5 awkward minutes, breathe, go, right?
Yeah, it makes perfect sense to me. I mean, that's kind of how I usually do my podcast too. I'll just have a little for a few minutes beforehand,
Yeah.
Then we go,
Then we just, it's like, you know what, and you can feel it, like especially, when I was initially interviewing, my first interview with Rob, first 5 minutes was awkward, because he was intimidating, but once you eventually you forget that stuff, as you keep doing it, and then suddenly, bam, you're there, right? And then once you're there, you're good. You're in that zone. You're in that groove. And then that's it. You've done it.
Oh my gosh. Just go.
Yeah.
Keep going.
Yeah.
Just staying on course at this point, that's easy.
Yeah.
Honestly, compared to getting into it, it's pretty easy.
Yeah. So one day, Niederriter could be a stand-up comedian. That'd be awesome.
I think it'd be fun, but I don't know, man. I think it'd take a little more than that.
Maybe. How about this, Tim Niederriter, improv actor. I'll go up there with you. Listen. I can completely make myself look like an ass for both of us. Fantastic.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Maybe the quarantine is over, the pandemic's in the past.
No. Just go out there, perform on stage. Make a complete ass of myself. I mean, I have no shame. I'll be good. I'll be good.
I can play the straight man.
We got our roles down. Okay, you be the straight man. I'll be the goof, and we'll have fun. Okay.
Yeah, sure. That's. I mean, honestly, it's kind of what's working today too. This podcast is like, I say something and you just go off and make it even cooler, man. It's like, okay, blow it up. That's how you work.
Well, you have a great. Honestly, I think you're more on the right track than you give yourself credit for. And I'm going to say this as a friend here. I had a conversation with I was thinking about my audiobook business, right? So I figured this out. For me to make a living doing this, and really a good living doing this, is essentially me getting 2 yeses a month. That's it. 2 yeses. Not impossible. And I have most of the tools I need to succeed at that already. And that phone call yesterday showed me from the outside looking in, I'm a lot closer to where I want to that goal than I even realized. My process is mostly good. I just have to tweak the last little bits to make it so that to the people I'm going after, if it's not irresistible, it's at least tantalizing enough to have a conversation, right? That's it. That's my job, right? I think I'm good at this talking thing. What do you think, Mr. Tim? Yeah. So that's the trick, right? I get people to talk to me. Your writing process is actually a lot of fun, and you could really, honestly, it just sounds to me like you just gotta look at it more like from a point of a performance, in the sense that you have to warm up, right? You have to warm up. You have to let yourself screw up as much as you want for 10 minutes. Find that rhythm, and if you find the rhythm and quickly and easily, some days it's easier than others, right? You just get in and do your thing, and then you roll, right? Other days, you're gonna probably find it'll be a struggle. But when you're having those struggles, it's like, okay, that's my warm up. Doesn't matter. This is my warm up. I can erase everything, and I can try again. Because honestly, what you've done is you're basically giving yourself permission to freestyle, and you have and let yourself go where the story generally goes. And it's not quite. I could see where some plotting would help you, but honestly, it sounds like you almost completely write your stories by rhythm now, and that's really cool, actually.
you gotta trust yourself.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Trust.
You've got to be prepared. It's gonna happen next.
Yeah.
That's what
Yeah. But I mean, like, honestly, I think it's really cool what you've come up with it. I think, honestly, the only real tweak you have to let yourself have is, okay, you know what, I can screw up for 10 minutes. And it doesn't matter. That's all you basically got to say.
gotta relax.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
But you gotta be
Yeah.
somewhat.
Yeah. Get intense when you get your rhythm, man. Right? Yeah.
Nervous, like maybe that's deadly to starting that kind of writing.
Nerves are okay sometimes, right? Because yes, because you're more aware. Like when you're terrified or you're a little bit afraid at the moment, you're actually more aware of everything around you. That's not a bad thing sometimes, right? I think in terms of public speaking, you can actually feed off what you feel from the crowd. But when you're by yourself, I mean, yeah, for 10 minutes, you know what? Just say, you know what? For these 10 minutes, I don't care what happens. I'm going to write a story about a jar of dirt. Screw it. I'm just going to this is going to be the most amazing jar of dirt story ever, and then after 10 minutes, I'm going to delete it, and then we'll worry about what matters to me.
Yeah, that's a great, just a good example there. But also, just being able to say not all of it's going to go in the book is a huge liberating factor.
Yeah, exactly.
I can say whatever I want because it doesn't all go in the story. It doesn't all have to be there. And no one ever has to hear it but me.
Exactly. You got yourself a cool marketing ploy, though, if you really, honestly. The lost tapes of Tim Niederriter. And honestly, some of that would actually be really cool.
Yeah, I did keep all the dictation files. So still keep them all. So
Yeah.
Kind of crazy, actually. How much I already have. Probably.
Yeah. Well, I actually, you know what? If you ever decide to do audiobooks, that'd be a cool bonus content.
Yeah, it's kind of tricky because a lot of them are recorded very at bit rate because it's smaller, with very low bit rate files. So they're not really good to listen to in the sense of they wouldn't, or at least they wouldn't make audible. Let me put it that way.
Oh yeah, you can probably you can figure that out. I'm sure you could.
Yeah, I suppose so. Yeah, actually, I can think of a way to do that.
It's okay. You can keep those baby pictures to yourself too. I'm just making this a suggestion. Yeah, it's all good. No, but Tim, honestly, it sounds like your process is really cool. Actually, I really like it. So,
yeah, I gotta appreciate it more myself. That's my thing. You never know. That's one of the things that makes me kind of foolish is I don't ever really seem to realize what I've done. I need somebody like you to tell me, oh, that sounds cool. That sounds like a good way to do things.
Yeah. Well, you write to rhythm. It's an interesting approach. I really dig it. I think that'll be the theme of this podcast when this airs. But speaking of Mr. Tim, I think we have an interview here. What do you think?
I think we got it. Yeah, excellent. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, I love having you, man. You're a great dude. Listen, promote your podcast, promote your latest book, and how people can find you.
All right, people can find me at timniederriter.com or mentalsellerpublications.com, and they can find you can find Live After Reading, which is my podcast where I talk to authors and podcasters and other folks like a certain Joshua Pandalarisco, and you can also find my books on Amazon.com. Shadow Prince is the newest one. It may be a sequel, but it also stands well on its own as I said before, so definitely check that out.
Let me help you tell your story. I offer a variety of audio services. I will narrate, I will produce, I will edit, and I will master your file so that it will be ready for Audible and Spotify. And if you don't want me to narrate your story, whether you want to do it or get someone else, I will help you find the right person for the job. All in all, I just want to help you tell your story. Let me help you. For information on my rates and services, please click the link below in the podcast description, jpantelleresco.wordpress.com for more details. And that's my conversation with Tim Niederriter. His latest book is out now. He's got a live after reading. His podcast is amazing. I was just on it. It was a fun little just chat. We just caught up with everything. I love Tim. Tim is an amazing human being. He doesn't necessarily treat himself like that, but he works very hard at his craft and goes nonstop at it. And I have nothing but respect for him. Speaking of which, this has been a week of busted expectations. I actually tried to get into comic book resources for the very first time, and it definitely was it was weird because by the time I got it, this taught me a very important lesson. Not everything you wanted when you were younger, you want when you're older. I learned very quickly that I just didn't want to do this. And I was kind of half-hearted when I handed it in, and it was weird because it just didn't fit my model anymore. But I had a blast giving it a shot. You have to go for the things you think are worth it. So, I mean, this has been my week of going for things that I never thought were possible. I also applied somewhere else to be a narrator. There was a narrating job I went for, thanks to a friend of mine, and I just went for it. Life's all about taking those chances, right? So that's what I've been doing. So, but in the meantime, like I said, I can't wait for my next client. I was really happy with how Do a Tarot came out. So is my client, and that's all I can do. There's testimony. I got my first testimony. I'm excited. I made some stuff happen, and I got more stuff to make happen. So, thank you for listening to this episode of Just Joshing. If you want to support the podcast, you can do so in a number of different ways. Subscribe to it. I'm on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher, Deezer, Audible. My books, The Alice Zero and The Watcher, are available now on Amazon.com. I have merchandise, jpantelleresco at redbubble.com. I am on YouTube as Joshua Pantelleresco. I am on, Twitter, Instagram, and as J Pantelleresco. My newsletter is Let's Get Dangerous. I'm going to start doing smaller things with the newsletter. I love doing the big ones, but I might still do them, but I think I'm going to do small little things just for my group and keep building and interacting with people. That's kind of the goal here. So that's what I'm going for. Live dangerously. Be dangerous. Don't be... So I have my definition of dangerous, and that's this. Dangerous isn't about, being reckless. It's about the fact that you are a smart, intelligent, capable human being with rights and choices, thoughts and feelings. And be aware of yourself, master yourself, and just go forward with whatever you're going for in life. That makes you amazing and dangerous. And that's the kind of danger that I support. So stay dangerous, keep surfing the chaos, and I'll talk to you guys next week.
Josh.